All right. Hi, my name is Garrett Dunn, and this is
DunnHuszar.
And we decided to do football, and I guess we'll explain to you what that is. All right.
So originally, this was from on senior trip when we were stranded in Maryland for about 7 hours. We were in the parking lot of Sam's Club, and there wasn't really a whole lot to do. So out of pure boredom, we pretty much played soccer with the water bottle. We were on this kind of grassy median, and we used the plants that were there, the trees planted there, as goals, and we essentially just kind of played soccer.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a lot of fun, and we decided to kind of flesh it out into an actual game.
Yeah. The bus didn't have, or the outlets weren't working, so we were forced to go outside, as dreadful as it is, instead of being on our phones. And we just used what we had, which was just a water bottle, and we just played. And then we went to the local Chick-fil-A, which was right there, and we just started talking about it, and we were like, we could make this into a real thing, like make it into an actual game, and we thought that could be very interesting. And since we were very unsure about our capstone at the time, we thought this could be something we could actually do. All right.
So for fears and concerns, we were very concerned it wouldn't get approved because you got a lot of people doing like different stuff, like mission kind of work and working with kids and stuff, and we figured this is very different from that. We were happy that it did. And we were very concerned we wouldn't have enough time either, because as you saw, it was in March, so we were like, okay, this is kind of last minute, and we didn't know if enough people would want to play the game or they'd be interested in or enjoy it even. But it turned out it all went pretty well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one thing we're very worried about is whether or not it would be fun, because we realized if it wasn't a fun game, then the entire capstone was collapsed, and we just have to find something else. But luckily, we made it very, very fun. And I know that everyone that played it absolutely loved it. And I guess we'll start to explain how it started. So, of course, since time was an issue, I immediately just, when I got back after the senior trip, I just got to it and decided to work on maybe like some rules or like the dimension of the field. And at first we started with a very small field. And it still is small, but the reason for that is because it's 3 people against 3 people. Even this was too cramped for that amount of people, which we would later add it to 40 by 20 feet, but the same size goals. And we decided to add these sort of like angles over here to add as a sort of a boundary to kick it back in, because we found that it wouldn't go over here a lot of the times. And yeah, the goals we would later build out of aluminum, and I guess we'll tell you about that later. But yeah, but for the original rules, it started off very simple, but it started to get very complex as I kept on refining it. And you'd find out if you read the rules that it's like very bureaucratic, and it almost seems sort of professional and very detailed. It's almost like 3 pages long, and I could do a whole presentation on it alone. So, and as for the original rules, there weren't many changes from it, besides one particular thing, being the kick-in, which I decided to make it a little like complex and different, in that if you kick out the ball, you kick it back in, you just lose your progress. So say if you're on this side of the field, or if this is your team's field, and you kick it out here, you'll take it into midfield and kick it back to your own team. But that ended up being sort of, I guess, confusing, and people didn't really get it at the start. So we just made it very simple with just a simple edit where if you kick it out of bounds, the other team kicks in from there, just like all other games, which I found was the only real edit we needed.
All right, so originally we wanted to do kind of like an entire like league and have multiple teams with team names and everything, and kind of set up kind of a tournament style. But we found it really just couldn't work. There's a lot of problems with it. The main problem being that there was just not enough time where people were all able to do it. There's a lot of responsibilities. We will have as seniors, a lot of capstones, a lot of extracurricular activities, and then schoolwork in general. So that didn't really work for that. And then it was just, I mean, figure just having it be too competitive would kind of take away from the game itself anyway. So we decided against that.
Yeah, we realized of course the reason that it was almost impossible to do anyway, just getting everyone to come, we decided to end up do like football meetups where anyone could come, and ended up sort of just being a group of people that all play football, not exactly particular teams, that would build like rivalries and sort of like the competitiveness was obviously something we wanted in the game, which we ended up having while it also being friendly. And we just didn't want the rivalries anyway. We thought that would sort of divide the teams and make it a little too aggressive maybe. And we ended up finding a good medium between competitiveness and friendship.
All right, so for designing and making the goals, we had some rough sketches for it, but we really weren't exactly sure how we were going to make them. We wanted them to be sturdy so they'd hold up. We wanted to be able to take them apart. We needed them to be large enough that you could score in them, as well as we had an idea for this pole in the middle, which we have named the Dorg.
Just sort of a funny name. For it.
Essentially, as where the original goals had the tree in the middle, this was kind of like that. And it's a secondary method of scoring, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But obviously the problem with like this is we're not metal workers, so we didn't really know where to start with that. Yeah. But Garrett kind of had an epiphany.
A way to do that. But yeah, so we wanted the Dorg, as it is called, just sort of as like another dynamic way to score, since it's not as simple as just get into the other goal. There's also another way, and we found it gave it sort of a more exciting way to score a goal. Whenever someone scored with the Dorg, everyone sort of got a little excited, like, the Dorg, all right, let's go. And yes, I guess we'll talk about how you score later in the rules. All right, so this is actually my dad's shop. So I went up to my dad and said, I have no idea how to build this. I don't know how to construct metal or anything, but my dad owns a welding shop. So I managed to talk to him. He helped me refine my dimensions, made it sort of more professional. And I went down to his shop, and he sort of showed me how like the welding was done and everything. Of course, I wasn't able to learn welding. My dad told me that was very complex, and I couldn't really learn it just then. But he showed me how it was done, how the steel was like rolled into the cylinder, or not the cylinder, the circle it is. And yeah, that helped. He helped me get we actually have a spike under the ground. You couldn't see it in the other picture, but a spike in the ground to help it not move, just to keep it sturdy. I didn't think about that before. I thought just the surface area would be enough to keep it stable. But yeah, also we both decided on aluminum. He was like, well, I can use some aluminum for this. It's cheap and easy to use. And I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. So that works out. And yeah, it has great service and friendly workers. So if any of you have any welding needs whatsoever, need any steel whatsoever, come down to Fraser Welding Steel.
Shameless plug.
Near the old city.
All right, so we decided that we needed an official foot bottle. We couldn't just use any old bottle for this. The original game we used like I think it was a Deer Park water bottle. And it was too thin and flimsy. It got crushed really easily. So we actually tested different ones for the game, and we settled on Powerade after a lot because it's
official sponsor.
Yeah, no, it's not sponsored. But there was like thick plastic. It couldn't get crushed too easily. The lid wouldn't like leak a lot, and it was a nice shape to kick it and everything, which you wouldn't think of a bottle for that, but it actually works very well.
Yeah. So since it's just a simple like cylinder, of course it was easy to kick. Which at first, when we were playing, everyone was completely inaccurate. We're just kicking a bottle. It's going all over the place. But as we played more and more, we actually got really good at this game. And we got professionals, professional foot bottlers. Yeah, the decision on the Powerade actually made the game actually work better. The bottle of choice actually helped. Yeah, definitely. All right, so as for the rules, so like I said, the scoring is very simple. All you have to do is just kick the bottle and land it in the pit, as it is called. And you can't interfere with it. If it bounces out, it does not count. But the Dorg, of course, is a sort of dynamic way of scoring, where if you just tap the pole, as you can see here, then it counts as a point, just as if you land it.
So even if it bounces out after hitting the Dorg, it still counts as a point that way.
Yeah.
So it makes it for more kind of aiming purposes.
All right, so as for foul kicks. So fouls, I went into a lot of detail on the rules and just listed like every particular thing that you had to do. But just generally, it's just no disrespecting the players, spitting, no like physical contact that's unnecessary.
Pretty general kind of.
Yeah, and so if you receive a foul, the other team takes a foul kick, which is where you place a bottle in the midfield, and you have a free kick. At first, this was completely impossible as the bottle is at first very difficult to try to kick in. But as we started doing it more and more, although there were a few fouls since it was very fair games, we got much better at the foul kicks, and we're hitting them probably half the time. So I guess Gabe would like to talk about that.
So there are 2 10-minute halves in every game. If the teams are tied at the end of the second half, then it goes into overtime, in which each team puts in 1 player and they go head-to-head, 1 versus 1, to try to score. The first one to score, their team takes the game. However, if someone fouls during this overtime, then the game is declared a floopshoop, which is another nonsense word. And the opposing team, not the one that committed the foul, the other team will win after that. We never had a floop shoot.
Never had a floop shoot. So disappointing.
Not enough fouls for us to have a floop shoot.
All right. So, and of course, football meetups is the opposite of what we were originally thinking with the league sort of team games, where anyone could come, just meet up, and we just make the teams right there. And it allowed everyone just to be playing with one another, not 2 teams having like a rivalry. And yes, this has been 4 football meetups, and we plan to have more in the future. And of course, there are 2 different types, we would say, where one of them being unofficial, which were like the first 2, where we sort of have light reffing, no time taken, where we just play the game, and that helped us refine the rules some more. And then we had the official games, which were like our last 2, where we'd put in 2 teams and we'd have official ruling, Gabe being our main ref, yes, keeping track of time, real fouls, and they got real competitive, but they stayed friendly the whole time. Like, we had a game go into overtime, and although it was very down to the brink, it was the sudden death. After like 5 minutes of the overtime, after team won finally, it was very fair. No one was a sore loser or anything. It was very friendly, I guess. All right. So as for now, football is just at school, and like I said, or actually I didn't say, the goals are like detractable, and you can fold them up, and they're really easy to set up. You can take them anywhere, although they're made of metal. That's what, because they're made of metal, you would think that it'd be hard to set up, but the design allows it. It's very easy to fold and just store. But yeah, so whenever we're not like having a football meetup on the weekends, maybe on a weekday, depending if we can do it. But it's just set up in the back of school, and anyone can just go outside and play it. And that's what we wanted this whole thing to be, just something that anyone could do, and just be a friendly sport. And it's just look about in school. We wanted this just to be sort of like a 9 square thing, because I know. Although that's like competitive for a lot of us, I know I've built friendships on 9 square actually, and that's exactly what we want. Just anyone can play.
So like a lot of classes are going outside during this time because it's real nice out. So I figured just give them another thing to do too.
Yeah. Thank you.